Don't worry, Lindsay, there's nobody here. It's just us. Oh, and we are live. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Catherine Michelle on my other channel. It's a dome. Obviously, if you're here, you know this is my other channel where we will talk flat earth and other things. My other channel, which is Catherine Michelle Investigates David Crowley. And that's all dealing with the David Crowley case. But tonight we're strictly focusing on topics like Tartaria, mud floods, flat earth. And I am joined today by Sophia.
Hello, everybody.
By William.
Hello.
And then this is my daughter, Lindsay. Okay, so I don't know how many of us here know a lot about these topics. It's like I know my daughter and I have done a couple of videos on flat earth, and I've done 2 interviews with David Weiss. Fantastic interviews. I mean, the guy is so knowledgeable. But when it comes to Tartaria and the mud floods, I don't have a clue. So I'm really hoping that either William or Sophia, Lindsay, somebody will have more information, because I really would like to learn about that. Do any of you have any idea about Tartaria, or what do you know? Sophia?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, William, you do. Yes, go.
Yeah, let's have William go.
So allegedly there was a society that existed. I mean, I'm not even really sure exactly where. They say Russia is where it was supposed to have taken, or where it was actually at. But they were supposedly like super, super advanced. But they were almost kind of like, I mean, looking at some of these photos and stuff, it's debatable whether they're real or not. I mean, honestly, like a lot of them, they just look like they were just faked, to be honest. But we're talking, I mean, like a lot of the stuff they had, it was like World Fair type of look is what it looked like. And, you know, all these like different buildings we got to see, all this like Notre Dame and all that, Moscow, all those different buildings they had over there. All of that was supposed to be Tartarian like technology. You know, we don't really see buildings built like that anymore, really, you know, which is unfortunate. There's just some really gorgeous buildings, but they apparently had usage for free energy. And like, it was to the point where it was almost like Nikola Tesla was kind of like ripping them off, is allegedly what's going on here. So like I said, I can't really prove or disprove everything there. But when people start talking about Tartaria, it's the whole Great Wall of China is the main topic to try and prove their existence. Because if you look at the Great Wall of China, it's around China, but it's also, it looks like it's meant to kind of, where it's set up at least, it looks like the side where you would basically be defending from is on the opposite side of China. Huh. Like on the other side. Like it's really, really weird looking. So I mean, that's basically what I've got on it, other than the whole fact that allegedly that they had a ton of free energy type of technology, weird like Tesla cage type of like technology for weapons and all this, but they just kind of apparently just disappeared.
Go ahead, Linz.
Well, and I guess like I mean, I know like next to nothing. Just like when I was just looking for the pictures for the thumbnails, I was like seeing a little bit of things. But when I saw it, or I'm sorry, when I just kind of looked just a little bit, what I thought was really interesting was how much they're trying to like sweep it under the rug. And it's even more so than flat earth, really. Like they just went all out with the conspiracy theorists were this and that, and it's just this huge conspiracy theory and just these crazy nutheads, you know. I mean, they went like full all out. I mean, even, and like I said, worse than flat earth. And so to me, I'm just like, okay, if there was nothing to it, and the free energy thing made a lot of sense if that's the case, because obviously they can't have that type of information getting out to people, right? And so I just thought what made it the most interesting was how much they were trying to like debunk it, you know, and they were trying to get all the crazy people off the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Was William, or Sophia, or any of you, even Lindsay, was this like right around the time where it was the fight for who was it, Tesla and
Edison?
Yes, Edison and Westinghouse and all those. Was it about that same time?
That's the thing. It's pretty unclear from what I've been gathering. There's times where they're saying this is basically, it was exactly around that time. There's other times where they're saying it was like First World Fair. I mean, it's all over the place. That's why it's a little hard to kind of trace it back.
Yeah, I looked it up and I sent you a link, Catherine, in your email.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt too.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Because-
where I
Like the whole
saw
thing
it.
of salt, really.
Yeah, exactly. Because was it you, William, that you and I were looking at Wikipedia and it was like changing as we were looking at it? We were looking at
Yeah.
Kamala Harris's
Yep.
background, and while we were looking at it, it was updating every time we would click on it.
Yeah.
It was
and
the craziest thing.
what I found out though with Wikipedia, I think you can sign up to be someone who edits it. So that makes sense. There are people editing certain topics all the time. I'm going to do a share screen and then we'll show this. I call it Tartary.
Mm-hmm.
And why are you not showing yet? Oh, there it is.
It's called like the Grand Tartary or something like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, why is it not? Oh, okay, there it is. Finally showing. Yeah. So German word. So the vast part of Asia, bounded by the Caspian Sea and the Ural Mountains, the Pacific Ocean, and the northern borders of China, India, and Persia, at a time when this region was largely unknown to European geographers. But it's this part right here in the dark pink. I wonder if we can get a better, okay, yeah, it's a little bit better view of that. Let me kind of zoom in. Nope, it won't let me zoom in. Darn it.
See, I don't remember the TikToker's name, but he that's what his main focus is on TikTok. He just makes videos about Tartaria and the mud flood. That's all he focuses on. And I mean, he's got all sorts of information on it, but he's actually the one who introduced me to the whole topic of the Great Wall of China and how it's positioned. And it was just a little weird, but I mean, the guy's got a ton of information. I don't remember the guy's name though. Let me go find that real quick.
Okay.
Because when you look at like ancient architecture and how they have the gigantic doors and the handles to the doors are like they're higher up than a normal person's height. And you're thinking, okay, well, who were these doors made for?
Right.
Was it to be an impression on somebody? Or was it for giants at that time? I mean, this is stuff I've never even entertained until lately. And then, sorry, my daughter's messing with the lights. I would prefer that you not leave that one on, please.
And I do remember seeing, I think it was in China or something, where they show like an old video of the average sized people and then this massive giant guy that was walking. And we have it throughout history, and we've heard of the story of was it Kandahar, our soldiers that during the Iraq War, it was either Afghanistan or one of those wars where they were over there and they were fighting a big red-headed giant. And I mean, again, I don't know if it's true or false, but yet it seems pretty interesting that these giants, that are 15 feet tall, are throughout history and through everybody's culture.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think too, they turn, really tall people into freak shows and like abnormal, like, oh, this is so abnormal. Look at this person. They're not like everybody else. There's some genetic mutation that made them this tall, or, they're always constantly trying to hide it and cover up. And, I even saw this one thing where clowns were actually a cover for the Nephilim. And it's things that just make so much sense, because when you constantly have certain things in your face all the time, like clowns are always there, movie It. No, I was done with that. But anyway, I was done. But I mean, you have these things in your face all the time, and there's a reason, because there's always those cover stories, and same with the Giants. There's always the cover stories, like, so I find that very interesting. But yeah, I mean, they were definitely real.
Well, I mean, if you get in with Giants, then you got to look at the Smithsonian, because
Mhm.
they're the biggest ones that are covering a lot of these things up. I mean,
Oh
look at
yeah.
all the photos, the articles, the newspapers, all the bones themselves. Look at the mounds across the United States. I mean, there's been several people. I mean, they're still unearthing things like this, and what happens? The story just gets covered up.
Mhm.
And the Grand Canyon,
That too.
the
Oh,
Four
it's actually a
Corners.
quarry. Yeah,
Mhm.
all of these places are actually quarries, and not even they weren't even erosions. They're actually like quarries from these machines digging out all of this stuff. And because I saw this video about how we actually don't have any forests, and then they were like, okay, before you think I'm nuts, but the actual forests were completely done away with, and everything that we're told is like the Grand Canyon and other canyons and stuff like that. They said they're nothing more than quarries. They dug out who knows what, and then everything that you're seeing is just left over from machinery. It's not even like natural. But they'll tell you, oh, because of course too, it has to fit in with evolution, right? You have to be able to have these millions of years and erosions and all this other stuff, when they actually just dug it out.
Well, and we know that that's not true too, because if you know anything, okay, I don't know the period, so I do know a little bit. But if you know anything about how evolution is supposed to work, when you're looking at all the different layers within the Grand Canyon, there are a lot of places that are missing millions of years worth of evolution and sediment and soot and stuff.
Right.
They're gone. You'll have it here, and then this whole entire section, it's gone, and then all of a sudden it's there. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And William, you sent. Do you want me to share that the thing you
Totally
sent?
cool with me. Yeah, One Foul Wow. He's that's the guy. He's got all sorts of information on Tartaria, mud floods.
I just signed up for him.
Yeah, he's awesome. He is awesome. And I actually find his little catchphrase pretty hilarious. So
I was listening to the incubators and the Cabbage Patch Babies.
the
I
what?
don't know. The Cabbage Patch Babies.
I
Or
haven't
the
heard
Cabbage Babies? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
that.
Oh wow, look, he has a lot of different topics, doesn't he?
Mhm. Yeah, he
Whoa.
covers a ton of stuff. I mean, with Mudflood especially, he's got a ton of information. I mean, just you look at some of these buildings. That's the big thing here. Look at all these buildings, and it just looks
Mhm.
like, it just doesn't look right. If you know what I mean. It's like you start looking at these buildings, and it doesn't match up. Like the bottom part doesn't.
You can actually play these on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Let's see what like this one.
There's commentary, so it counts as like a kind of a commentary type thing.
Okay.
This is all educational and just our opinions too.
Okay. Oh,
Just
he
to
must.
cover.
Okay. Oh, he's doing it.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
You can't
Uh,
hear it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's really low. But though I don't. Oh, see. The one thing I did want to point out is I think I was watching a John Levy. I don't know if you guys have heard of John Levy on YouTube. It's JONLEVI. He
Sounds familiar.
talks very monotone, and it's kind of hard sometimes to listen to him. But fight through that and listen anyway, because he was showing these, and then he was showing other buildings that people were building at that point, and it was like night and day. You have these fabulous structures, and then these like little 8 by 10 pieces of wood slapped together, and
Mhm.
it's like the what's the word I'm thinking of? The ability to do it. They just didn't match. There was such a dichotomy between the architecture.
Catherine, why don't you just play it so that people can see like what he's showing at least, and then they can just
They won't be able to hear it. So
at least they could see the architecture. Excuse me, trying to get it out.
that. And as soon as, okay, let's.
Because it's just stunning. You look at the stuff and we just don't have this type of.
This is the Tesla Tower right here. Yeah, look at this. I'm going to pause here. I mean, look at this. It's amazing. And then you see the houses. I mean, look at the houses that our supposed ancestors were living in on the plains, and even the smaller cities. They weren't like this, but yet they built these.
Yep.
And all these structures, I think these were antennas, right?
Well, and if you look at also, I mean, that looks like that's gold right there. You know, and gold's like a super, super good conductor. So it's like, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. And weren't they run on water or something?
There was water. I mean, there's all sorts of different things they used, but they had so many different ways to transport it and transport it safely too, which is, it's pretty cool. I mean, just the way this guy talks about it. I mean, he's got a few different videos specifically where he talks about their energy systems and things like this. It's fascinating. Best way I can put it. But I mean, he's just kind of a gateway as far as I'm concerned. This guy, everything he puts forth, it's essentially just like tip of the iceberg. Because you think about, where, you've got the mud flood. Well, then we go back to the Bible, and I like to go back to that because it mentions this flood, right? When you go back historically, look all around the world, every single culture in the world has talked about a flood, and they all describe it the same way. So if this big flood happened all over the place, where's the water? And then you got to think, okay, well, where did that water come from anyways? And how did it flood the entire world like this? Where'd it go? We still have to look at the principles of science here, just of where did it go? It didn't just disappear. So that's my big thing. So, you got this mud flood. Well, you got all this land that's just going to be absorbing all this water, and it's just mud. And that's where you start getting into the problems with carbon dating. Look at, some of the bones they've found. They found, I believe it was mammoths, if I'm not mistaken, where they checked the tusks. I believe this is what it was. It's like the tusks were like 4,000 years old. And you got like the fur or whatever it was saying, it was like 500 years old. It was weird things like this. And it's like, well, wait, that's not right. That doesn't make any sense. And then you've also got dinosaur bones. You've got human bones, all this existing, all of these different points. It's just like, okay, really? Then where'd the giants go? We've got all these bones all over the place. Where'd they go? And then all the locations we hear about these giants, they're all in like really, really high elevation. That's the only place we hear about them where they still exist.
Yeah. And, when you talk about the testing and stuff, and I remember back in high school when we covered quote unquote carbon dating. And back then in high school, I learned that carbon dating was not reliable. It oftentimes would, it gives you all these extra years because of how carbon breaks down. You cannot, but yet science, quote unquote science, will still use carbon dating and say, oh, things are millions of years old when they know it's not. And it's the same thing with trying to find out how old a tree is. Because you're taught to count the rings because it's one ring for every season or whatever, until they found out that if seasons were off and it got cold, hot before summer really kicked in, each one of those would produce a ring. So 1 year could have 4, 5, 6 rings and not just one ring for every year. So people have to be real careful. And you're talking about dinosaur bones. I used to love science. And I would go to the museums. And I remember walking by the dinosaurs because I'm like, oh, I want to go see this is so cool, dinosaur bones. And then there's this is not real bones. It was just a mold.
Right. Well, and that's the thing when it comes to dinosaurs, they've even admitted that most of the dinosaur bones they've allegedly got all there, even when they've got the real ones or allegedly the real ones, that they're not even sure if that actually belongs to said dinosaur. Like the T-Rex, more often than not, this is a big example. They've even basically admitted that, yeah, this is like, 20 different dinosaurs, basically what they're saying here, different types of bones, all this that belong to this.
Right. And actually what they did is they mixed all kinds of animals actually to create these dinosaurs. And then Eric Dubay made a really, really interesting point in his video, because I used to believe in dinosaurs, like, right, the big one with the long neck, like that was like my favorite or whatever, right? What was it, the brontosaurus or whatever. But he made an interesting point about mating. Their mating was completely impossible. And then on top of that, like, we're told they lay eggs, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'm sure somebody's argument is going to be that they lay the eggs, then the daddy dinosaur comes in and like fertilizes the eggs. However, that is not possible on land. And because I just looked, I like to look things up, because sometimes you think you know something, but you're like, okay, well, I want to make sure I have this down before I try to make this point. So sure enough, I looked it up. The only way that an egg could be fertilized outside of the female body is in water. Yeah. And so, because we have chickens, like, in case you guys don't know, like, we have chickens, but we can't have roosters. But, even with chickens, yes, the fertilization process still takes place in the female. So, sorry, my dog. So it's not the same thing. So, you know what I mean? So it wouldn't be, the rooster still fertilizes the egg while the egg is still in the female. So but you look at all the dinosaur eggs, and where are they? They're in a neat little nest, like a little birdie on land. And you're just like, that would not be possible. So if they physically couldn't mate, they can't fertilize the eggs on land. It's just, the whole thing is just, I mean, I like Jurassic Park movies, right? Like, I can't lie. Like, I mean, they're interesting movies, but at the same time, there's a reason why they push dinosaurs so much, because it's an evolution thing. It's strictly evolution. Like Lewis Black, which I don't recommend anybody listen to him, but he's this comedian, and he did this whole thing like, oh yeah, well, you want to prove evolution? Here's a blanking dinosaur bone. And there, and it was just like, so haha, there's no creator, in your face, because we have dinosaur bones. Well, the dinosaur bones are fake, and they're from other animals. So, and you figure if there was giant people, there probably were giant animals at some point, and maybe still are, but they're mixing all of these things and then telling you, oh yeah, it's a dinosaur and we evolved, and our chickens came from being dinosaurs and they were once feathered, and it's just like ridiculous. Like the end of the last Jurassic Park movie, I was laughing so hard because at the end they did this huge emotional scene, and then they had the dinosaurs running with the horses, and then they had the other type of dinosaurs running with the elephants out in the African safari, and then they had like I don't know, did they have the pterodactyls flying with something? I don't know. And I was just like, I was laughing so hard because I was like, wow, like, as if this movie doesn't push it enough, which, okay, we're just there watching it just because, okay, it is interesting, I can't lie, right? But you're just like, wow, like they could not have tried any harder to be like, oh yeah, the horses came from dinosaurs, and so did the elephants and the giraffes and your little flippity birdies, they're all.
And what each and every time every single person forgets is the dinosaurs, according to the narrative, were wiped out by an asteroid or something hitting the earth. Now, it could destroy all plant life. It could destroy all the dinosaurs. So how did anything evolve down lower? They're all gone. They're all wiped out. And how could anything survive if everything died? So in other words, according to the narrative, without people realizing it, the entire evolutionary process had to start all over again because everything was gone.
Enter in the cockroach joke, right? Like even roaches can survive, asteroid hits that didn't really happen because there is no outer space, like, so we didn't come from monkeys. We're all apparently a bunch of roaches. So it's just
came from the dirt. It's pretty obvious. I mean, just look at it. I mean, the Bible just straight up just throws it out there. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, there's more to it than just that too, because look at the book of Enoch. I know a lot of people, like I've had quite a few debates with people on this. You look at the book of Enoch and they talk about the Watchers. And what do? They're literally gene splicing. And what did they just recently do over? I don't remember exactly what college just did this, but it's news that I know mainstream media is not talking about. The Chickenosaurus. I'm not even kidding you.
Yes.
You've heard about it already?
Yes.
There's
So
a Chickenosaurus?
yeah, they're literally like, and now you got all these archaeologists and all this. They're literally wanting Jurassic Park. It's like, really? Why? Why? I just don't understand this. This is just insanity. But the thing is, who has been talking about for years about chimeras and all this? Alex Jones. And what happened to him? Censored. Why? I mean, it all makes sense. I mean, why they don't want him talking. I mean, among other reasons, but still, they literally censored a guy that was talking about all these papers that MIT and all these other colleges were pushing. And what are these colleges doing? Now out in the open, they're not even hiding it anymore. They're creating chimeras. And what exactly would a dinosaur be at that point? Because, I mean, even if you look at what the Bible says about the flood, it talks about, it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 of every animal, but there was more to it. I'm trying to
2
remember
of
exactly.
every unclean, 7 of
Yes,
every clean.
Thank you. Exactly. So when they're talking about clean animal, what do you got? You got the ones that are pure that God made. You look at the ones the Watchers made, now you've got unclean.
That makes so much sense because, okay, so sorry, I don't mean to be
The
rude.
biblical definition's a little different. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just got really excited because that makes so much sense because you think about all of the animals that are worshipped by satanic occults. And like, I don't know, like that to me just makes a whole lot of sense. And I'm just like, whoa, so.
Well, the difference that the Bible talks about, they're unclean because they're scavengers. They will eat of the dead flesh of another animal, rotting flesh. They're the cleaners, the garbage disposal, so to speak. The clean are the ones who don't do that. It's like, say, a cow versus a vulture or whatever. A vulture will go in and eat all the carrion. The cow only eats grass.
Right.
So the cow is clean, the vulture is not. So that's the biblical definition. But at the same time, could all of those, what's the word, chimeras? How do you say chimeras? That? Okay. Could that have been part of the reason why the creator just says, okay, I'm done with all y'all. I'm just getting rid of everything.
Well, the one thing I like to go and note about chimeras is look at like I would argue this is probably the most famous chimera of all that we know for sure is, and like we can see it. It's the liger. What's the big thing about the liger? It's sterile. It literally cannot reproduce.
Correct.
So if these things are literally, I mean, like God wants everything to reproduce. He wants everything to multiply and all this. I mean, especially man, that's what he wants man and woman to do is multiply. But at the same time, animals need to do the same thing because, well, man's got to eat, right? So, and that's the big thing that I was looking at. I was like, wait a second. Okay, so, you're looking at the unclean. You could be looking at things like, yeah, like you're saying, you got the vultures, all this. But what about those that like have unclean genetics?
Yes.
I
agree with you. I think those would definitely fall in. And then you talk about more recent chimeras. I mean, look at the Montauk monster.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge. And it was covered up by our government all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of them. I mean, look at, like, for instance, the Wendigo.
Yes.
Nobody likes to talk about that one, but what about the national parks? All these people going missing. The cave systems, where are they supposed to go and stay at? Why do people keep going missing near these areas where the Wendigos are supposed to exist? I mean, it's just questions.
Excuse my stupidity, but what is a Wendigo?
A Wendigo is a shapeshifter. It's a beast or a human. I'm writing a book on this, and so they can take on a human form to get what they want, but then they can shift into this demon type thing and kill whatever they need. It's quite fascinating.
And the thing is, a lot of people like to go and mix them up too with the skinwalkers, and they are vastly different. The skinwalkers are just basically, the way I've been kind of looking at it, they're just like a human being, but basically they just gave up their way. They just kind of they're just pure evil.
So they're almost like functioning zombies?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm all interested.
Yeah. A Wendigo is a true demon type it
Okay.
switches, it shape shifts from a human, and they can be talking like this, and then all of a sudden, either at will or under certain duress, they switch, and then they become a demon.
See, this is why I stay home and I don't go in the woods. Like, I'm just saying. That whole Blair Witch thing is like really like freaking me out right now.
Well, good thing that one's fictional.
Yeah, right. Oh, I hated that movie. I would laugh and I made so much fun of that movie. It was ridiculous. But yeah, that's not what this show is about. But anyway.
Sophia, you're being awfully quiet, girl. Come on, jump in.
I don't know how much I actually believe in like supernatural type things. So, I mean,
and what do you mean? Define for you what supernatural is.
like a Wendigo.
Okay.
I'm not sure I actually believe that yet, or I mean, like Bigfoot either. I want to, because so many people have supposedly encountered it or seen it and that kind of thing. But could there be another explanation? I don't know. But Lindsay, you supposedly had something to say. Feel free. Save me.
Oh no. I really I think the reason, like, even not even knowing what it was, right? I think just off the bat, hearing the explanation makes a lot of sense to me. And especially because, like, there's this one, like, I covered this guy's video, and so I don't know if I should say the channel name, but anyway, he's very, like, he started off like heavy into Torah, this, that, and the other thing, and now he's just like gone full atheist, right? But anyway, I covered one of his videos, and I'll watch things here and there, and he just completely denies any evil whatsoever. Like, he's just like, it doesn't exist, demons don't exist, blah blah blah. And I guess for me, I've dealt with this stuff myself. Like, obviously I haven't seen a Wendigo because I didn't even know what it was, but like, I have dealt with these like spirits, like in person and things like that. So something, and I've even kind of dealt with something like that, where something shifted in front of my eyes and it disappeared. And that's not good. It's really, really bad. And so I think for me, and I think it's just, I don't see how people can look at this world and like not just see pure evil, like just straight evil. And I know so many people want to justify that because they're like, well, our Heavenly Father and a creator, and he loves us so much, so now there really can't be evil. I know people take it there too. And it's just like, so looking at the world and looking at how undeniably evil, and even that's an understatement, that this world is, it's very easy for me to believe that there are beings out there that are acting human and they're not, or shape shifting and doing all of this crazy stuff. And I think, I don't know, like, just for me, it was just like, whoa, to me, that makes a lot of sense. And just because a lot of people do go missing in the woods and stuff, and you're just
they
like,
do.
that's
Yeah, they do.
Like, again, that's why I don't go camping. I'm just like, no, if an RV is not going to save me, we're not going,
But who's to say they're not slipping into like another dimension, or something else
too.
is happening to them? And I mean, because I've encountered some very strange things in the woods and forests and stuff. I've heard things that are unexplainable and seen things that are just, you're like, wow, did that really just happen? And it will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
But go ahead.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, there's no way to look at the world and say it's not. I mean, I can't say pure evil because I mean, there's still a lot of good in the world, but it's mostly evil. There's so many things out there that just, it's disturbing. I mean, the one thing I like to look at here is when we look at the pure evil, we have to go and talk about things like Pizzagate. You know, you have to look at things like that. You got to look at, you know, this alleged video between, what was it called? Frazzle Drip. You know, we got to look at things like this. We got to look at all these people. I mean, look at Balenciaga. Look at, what's his face?
Epstein.
Not yeah. There's Epstein, but there's not Skippy, but his brother. But he's a Podesta.
Podesta, John Podesta.
Yes, and John Podesta, and what was his brother though? Was
Tony.
Yeah, Tony Podesta. I mean, look at his artwork he's got in his house. It's clearly like really, really disturbing. And then you got the ties to, you know, the Rothschilds. You got ties to
The Vanderbilts.
Well, yeah,
The Vanderbilts too.
Oh yeah, you get the 13 bloodlines. I mean, you get into all this evil stuff, and you start going down. And it's a long rabbit hole to go down. But once you think you've reached the bottom, there's more evil to go and explore. And it's like, oh goodness. But it doesn't. I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't just stop either. It keeps going and going and going. I mean, it makes the Energizer Bunny have a bit of a run for his money. But it's the thing that is like, you see this. I mean, it's right out in the public now. People see this. I mean, you can see the evil. But it's, look at all the things these people are trying to go and cover up. Why do they want Julian Assange gone? Why do they want Snowden gone? They exposed some of their evil operations. You know, and these are just tip of the iceberg type of operations. But then you've got the things that Julian Assange exposed. I don't know if you guys got to read the, I'm trying to remember who it was between. It was between Skippy and, John Podesta. So we've all probably heard that audio clip there with Skippy. But there was an email between him and somebody else. I don't remember who it was, but he had a bunch of videos that he released, he didn't release, but he sent. And you get to see these things allegedly from space and all this kind of stuff. You know, it's really weird, because why are they sending these things? Why are they trying to go and push these UAPs now? So UFOs, of course, that's kind of weird, but you know, they're pushing these things, and it looks like they knew somebody was watching them. And that's the vibe I got when I was reading it. So, but why do they want him gone now? He exposed all sorts of things. He exposed the evil these people are doing. He was exposing things. And then you got the people that are going after him, and what happens? People rush to go and get rid of them. But then when it comes to the evils these people are doing, that's nothing. Just tomfoolery. Don't worry about that. I mean, look at the Clinton emails. Completely.
Or the Bidens.
Right. You know, hashtag pedo Peter. You know, it's things like this. It's, why aren't they being investigated? Why aren't they actually being investigated? It's because it's a big joke. You know, the U.S. government. I mean, what is our government and every other government around the world pretty much talking about? One world government. What is the one thing that is supposed to be coming with a one world government? Well, you got the Antichrist. You got all sorts of other problems. And then, I mean, you got all sorts of different prophecies and things from around the world. And what do they talk about? There's a lot of them talk about this, like this unifier, if you will. I mean, and this guy's like pure evil, nothing but evil. And you get to see this. I mean, this is all over the place. So I don't know. I mean, for me, it's kind of hard to kind of ignore all that. But I mean, I get this, you know, the whole skepticism on the supernatural and all this. I do get it.
I mean, it's not everything supernatural. It's just, there are some things that I just don't know if I believe in yet, you know, until I actually do more research and everything. And
I think it would go hand in hand, to be honest. I would think that those beings would be kind of transporting people to other portals, because there are well, obviously there's always stories of like gatekeepers, right? Of all different kinds of things. But also there was this other story where these people, they escaped whatever this was. I don't know what it was, but they even talked about like somehow, like, so they were out in the woods, and somehow it was like they were in another dimension, and they were in something. They didn't even know what they were in. And I don't even know how they got out, but there were people who survived it, and people who, or they didn't even say if anybody died necessarily, but they somehow got out of it. So there's always stuff like that too. So it could always kind of be like a portal thing and like a shapeshifter thing, like, you know, or somebody kidnapping people to take them to the portals. Or I just think like, really, it's almost like the more bizarre it is, it's almost guaranteed to actually be true, because they really put all of the mundane so much in your face, right? Like, I mean, what is a person's drive basically every day? You go to work, or you pick up your children from school. Everyone talks about what a horrible day they had. You have dinner, you clean up, you're doing all this crazy stuff, and then it's time to go to bed. But don't forget to keep up with the Joneses, your neighbors that you don't like and don't like you, and but we're all trying to impress each other over nothing, and they have everybody just so twisted up in the mundane. So now when it comes to something that would actually, the whole truth is stranger than fiction thing, now people are like, oh, I don't want to believe that, because, well, you're drowning in the mundane, that anything outside of that is just hard to believe, because I've noticed people base everything off of their experiences a lot, or they'll ignore their experiences, right? Like the guy, he went to Iraq and all this stuff, and I'm just like, you can't tell me you didn't see evil. You can't tell me you didn't see our Creator working in your life or in other places. Like, I don't buy that for a second, So people either rely on the mundane that they're drowning in, or, you know what I mean? And so it's just, they keep everyone so distracted. Like, if they can keep you distracted, then it's just easy to just be like, no, I mean, I got to go to work. So again, the same thing that with the flat earth. Well, I have to go to work. So what difference does it make?
Exactly. I'm glad you said wig, because I wanted to get straight into that flat earth. And I think this is perfect example, because, we are taught our entire life to ignore what we see. And when you stand on a beach and you're looking out over that ocean and it's flat, and people go, well, it'll curve on in their peripheral vision, right? Or on a photo. And so somebody just told that to me the other day, and I said, that's how your vision works. That's how your eyeballs work. Doesn't mean it's curving. It just means that's how your eyes are going. And I said, now it's flat here, but if you see a little curve, what happens when you turn this way? Is it still curving? And they're like, no. Well, then it's flat, right? So if it's flat here, it's flat when it's here too, just because that's not how you see it. Mm-hmm. And, but yet that psyop, whatever you want to call it, it runs so deep that people will laugh at you. They will condemn you. They will tell you you're crazy. And, oh, those effing stupid flat earther people. And it's like, your eyes are telling you it's flat, and yet you're calling. They refuse to believe, is what I'm trying to say. They don't want to believe what they're seeing. They'd rather believe what they're told.
Well, and there's a really interesting reason for that too. Is I think, I don't know if it wasn't John Levy. It was somebody else. I forget his name, but he actually did this whole thing where the reason for that is because now actually writing has actually been around since the beginning of time. Like, we're told that, oh, it just kind of popped in somewhere, and now all of a sudden people know how to write, and they just never did before. That's not true. So writing has actually always been around. However, with the way our brains work, we actually take in information better when it's told to us versus when we're reading it. And so I think that's how they get away with this, because the scriptures very clearly point to a firmament, and all of these things. And so when you have all that, but it's easy though, because what you're told over and over and over again in churches and in schools is the globe and the heliocentric model and this, that, and the other thing. So when this is constantly being told to you verbally, you're going to justify anything and everything that you read, even though it's very plainly written. You're just not going to take it in, and you're just going to justify what you're reading, because what you were verbally told is what's taking over your entire brain space.
100%.
So it just is, and because I remember like just reading, and I'm like, how did I miss this? You're like, how did I miss this? Like, it's right here in front of my face. How did I miss this? Well, and that's exactly why, because it's what you're told out like
Well,
kind of
and,
outmaneuvers.
growing up, standing on beaches and flying in planes and looking at the sky, and something was always telling me something's not right. And, it's like okay, I know what I'm seeing, but why is that not jiving with what I've been told? And yet, and still, even when I first heard about the flat earth concept, I did the same thing everybody else did. I laughed so hard, and I was leaving comments going, "Oh, what a bunch of weirdos. You guys are so stupid. You don't know what you're doing." Well, those comments stopped really quick. I wish I could remember who I would write on, because I'd go back and delete all those. But, you know, we talk about cognitive dissonance. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even when I had my own telescope and I'm looking at the stars, and they are not at all, they're not behaving the way NASA tells us that they do. They didn't look the way NASA said they looked. And instead of going, wait a minute, they're lying to me, I put my telescope away because I thought it was broken.
Well, right. And remember, like, when you told me that and I was telling you, I was like, yeah, I bet you thought your telescope was broken, because we're told, oh, we're such imbeciles. If we're not scientists, then we're idiots. If we're not into science, then we don't know what we're talking about. If we're not following the scientific theories, then we're just not intelligent. And that's why I'm constantly telling people, like, science is a religion. It's not what we're told it is. It's not this whole like, oh yeah, like we're going to try to figure things out and go from there. No, and think about how much people rely on it, and how much people are constantly saying, well, science says this. Science, even faith, even, or I don't like the word faith, but even believers, right? They'll be like, oh, well, science proves that there's a creator. Why are you worried about science? Who cares if science proves a creator or not? Like that, I don't care. I know there's a creator. I know I'm created. I don't need them to tell me anything, and you think of just how much it is completely taken over everybody's brain, everybody's language. So naturally you're going to think, oh, well, no, I'm just stupid. I don't know what I'm doing because I'm not a scientist, or I'm not an astrologer. I don't have the equipment that they have. Yes, you do. You have the exact same thing in your living room that they have, if not better. But because they are constantly pushing these images over and over and over and over again, there's no way it's not going to impact your viewpoint on things, or what you think, your intelligence, how you view your own intelligence.
Well, one thing I want to just note on that is a lot of people seem to forget about science is never, I mean, they can say it's 100%, but the thing is, science is always changing. And that's the thing. A lot of people tend to forget about that, is science is always changing. At this point, we might say, the sky is blue. And then, 100 years from now, they might be saying, no, that's not blue. That's that's just, green. They might be saying some weird things like this. And it's like all these different concepts change. The thing is, though, with science, there's certain principles that, they remain true, good majority of the time, but it's when it comes down to, like, for instance, science proving the creator. Okay, yeah, my faith, I'm already faithful. I believe in the creator, but it adds to it. But then you've got the other thing, is my favorite, is the Big Bang. Everybody goes back to that one, and they always say, okay, well, Big Bang just happened. There's no creator. Well, okay, but what happened before the Big Bang? We're going to use some science principles here against those people. Nothing doesn't just create something unless there's a creator that's, well, beyond our understanding, which, well, what is God? Triune. I mean, look at that. This predates even the concept of Cthulhu, for instance. Let's look at that. What is Cthulhu? Like 5 different things in one. He's like 100% this, 100% that. And it's like, but that doesn't make sense. But that's just because he's beyond our understanding. Just because something's beyond our understanding, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not real and it couldn't exist. It just means it's beyond our understanding. But end of the day, science already proves the Big Bang. Basically, there would have to have been a creator if that was a thing. That's just the part that's just so funny. I don't believe the Big Bang at all. I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily believe in necessarily flat Earth per se. I don't really fully know what to believe at this point. There's just, my mind has been blown and just shattered in a million pieces on this, and it's just like, oh man, what do I believe anymore? But I've been actually digging around on this whole infinite plane theory. Firmament can still exist, and it can also explain other things that, well, wouldn't necessarily look like us to some degree. It can also explain, I mean, you start looking at these maps of these things, and it's just like, wow, okay. But at the same time, I mean, flat Earth, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the curvature, there's so many videos out there just completely just shattering the narrative. So many videos, and then you got to look at moon landing. There's no wind in space, allegedly, what they're saying here. There's a vacuum, and you get all this other kind of stuff. So how is the flag blowing? And then why did Stanley Kubrick lose his life? Oh, that's right. That's right. That's exactly why.
Right.
And how was there a rat on Tesla's little vehicle in space? Apparently, I mean, I called him out on Twitter. No response. I wonder why.
Right.
Why
Reynolds made a whole lot of money with that moon landing with their little foil ship.
Right. Yeah, I mean, why? And then that's another question I have. Why did they just, or why are they just? Why can we not go back to space allegedly? Why can't we do that again? We're so much more advanced now. Why can't we do that now? Just so much easier. It should be a lot easier to get out there and be able to go and just colonize Mars and all this kind of stuff. Oh, I mean, sorry, I meant Devon Island.
For real.
Back to the science thing, because they teach you in both in chemistry class and in your high school biology class what happens to the atoms in the well, now we know they're quarks, but all of these things as they're being compressed, what happens to them? It causes friction, it causes heat. That heat then destroys. So I would always ask my teachers, how could the Big Bang be real if you're teaching us that by compressing it's causing friction and destruction? How all of a sudden did it create all this? And they're like, oh, well, it doesn't work that way in this instance. Well, then it doesn't work that way on my test. Right. I need to get a right answer. Right. And then also okay, let's go back to science again. Water always finds its level. When it will, you put it somewhere and it will always be level. And I'm like, now stick that to a ball.
Right.
You already have pre-moved gravity. You have everything you need. Stick it to a ball. Make it curve. They can't.
And I'm really coming to find out too that because how you're always hearing about, the controlled opposition, right? And I'm really starting, and I did a couple videos on this actually, that we're actually not on a circle. We're not on a perfect circle. And I actually went through the Hebrew root words and the words that were there before, and actually wasn't even the word circle. It was just boundary. And so there is a boundary, and I'm actually thinking that it's more oval. And so, and the reason for this too is that so Neil deGrasse Tyson completely gives this away. And I used to laugh at him, right? I would just be like, oh, okay. So first we're on a ball. Now we're on an oblate spheroid, so we're an oblate spheroid. Yeah. And so, but he said some very interesting things in this interview that he did. And for one, an oval, what is a flattened oval? A flattened oval is an oblate spheroid. And it has axes. It has the four corners. You could get four corners. It would have an equator. It would have a north pole. It would have a south pole. It has all of these things that they're constantly trying to convince you is on the spinning ball, right? Then on top of that, he talks about how if you were to run your hand over it, it would be smooth like glass, right? It would just be so smooth. And then the guy was like, oh, but then your hand, something about wet, right? But then you'd be able to tell if it was wet or not. And he's like, well, how wet? I mean, it's not like you could take your hand to dry it off. So he's basically hinting and saying that because the firmament separates the waters from the waters, right? So whatever is outside the firmament is water. And so he's basically saying, if you were to run your hand over the firmament, your hand's going to be wet. You can't dry it off. And it's obviously like going over glass. And so, just putting that together, but it's easy to laugh at him, right? Because you're like, oh, okay, you guys are just coming up with stuff out of nowhere now. And And so it's just like really, really interesting because, and here's the reason too that I mean, circle, that's Freemasonic language with the compass. And the original language wasn't even compass, it was encompass. So to include, not like a compass that a
Okay,
Mason uses.
yeah, but we can't say every time the word circle is used, it's Masonic. You know, a circle
but I mean,
existed before the Mason tradition began.
Well, no, but you also think too, the UN flag is a perfect circle with 33 sections in it. So it's just very interesting when you're putting all of these things together and then you're listening to what these people are telling you, because they know that people are they're kind of going to get laughed at on either side. So the people who are hardcore globe believers are going to be like, oh, okay, globe, oblate spheroid, haha. And the flat earthers are going to be like, oh, now you're coming up with something new. Like, that's great. So now
I'm gonna tell you that I don't think anybody knows what the shape is, other than I know we're not on a spinning ball flying through space. I mean, if we're going according to scriptures, the scripture says that the waters are divided from the waters, and land was put in the middle. So we know that there's water below and there's water above. We know that there is a firmament or heavens. It's a plural. So we can see that when you're looking up at the stars or even at the moon, there's called that lunar wave. You see a wave rippling across the surface of the moon. You see stars dancing like they're under a pool of water. So we know there's a water barrier, and that's really all we know. And we know somewhere within those the firmaments, the heavens, that there are stars in there. And we also know that we can see the stars here, but if we get above our atmosphere, it's gone. There's nothing but blackness. So what is it about our atmosphere that allows us to see that reflection of those lights that is now missing when we get above and beyond it? Nobody's ever bothered to look at that. I've tried to find it and I can't find anything. So, as far as a shape goes, we don't know, other than the fact that we are not on a spinning ball flying through outer space. That's pure insanity.
So has anybody else? I mean, do any of you guys watch Woodward TV by chance?
Yes, I do.
Okay, awesome. So you've probably heard the whole thing about he had a video where it was like jellyfish in the sky. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
All right, so that's an interesting one. I would highly suggest watching it. He's talked about this weird phenomenon, apparently very, very high up. We get apparently there's been talk about jellyfish in the sky. How is that possible? Where do we see jellyfish at?
in the
In the
ocean.
sea.
Only in the water.
I never saw that. Even I'm staring at the screen and I'm like, I don't see a jellyfish.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. But it's like, he was mostly talking. That's all he really did. There was a little bit of video footage, which I had the same problem. But he had talked about, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he'd also spoken about how this has been mentioned for like years about this. As long as we've been going up in the sky, like that, it's been discussed. So that's part I find a little interesting, because where do we find jellyfish? We find in the ocean, so what would the heavens be essentially? I mean, either a giant, like, are we looking at an ocean? Are we talking, I mean, what is it? Either way, it's still, that's my thing. It's like jellyfish. It's like, okay, well, that exists. If this is true, and then you got the firmament and everything, well, we've never really been out there.
I don't know if I could ever believe that there would be jellyfish up above us, but we do have to know if we're going to go according to scripture, like when the floods happened, it said that the windows of heaven were opened and the water came down, and then it came up from the bottom, from the deep. It came up from the depths. So, it's like, we're not talking rain clouds here, which, we grew up in church being told that it was rain. So it was just the rain coming. No, this isn't the windows of heaven. So there's got to be massive amounts of water. So we're clueless. We just have this little bit of information. And what we do know is that we can see with our eye it is flat as the day is long.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go up there and we see balloons that go up above, however many miles above the face of the earth, it's flat and it's pitch black out there. I don't see any circles.
Well, we also see that when we go in the ocean, we go real deep, it just becomes black. You don't see any light. It only goes down so far, which we're also told light also goes on and on and on. Well, now that we know that's not true because you've got flashlights, you can see that's not even true. Flashlights only go so far. So, I mean, really, end of the day, it's like, okay, well, that's not true, But at the same time, we've also got the whole thing with Antarctica. You got to look at it that way too. Why is that so high? Why are those ice walls so high? Unless the water came up that high. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me. It's like, oh, just the snow compacting. Well, okay, why isn't it out in the ocean more? Because that landmass, of Antarctica allegedly, when they've drilled down and things, it goes down for miles, in the ice, but they can still hit land. But it also, that ice comes way off from there too.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of the creation of the place that we live. Mm-hmm. Everything is self-sustaining and everything creates itself over and over and over again. Like oil. I have been saying since, the 80s that there's no such thing as fossil fuel. It's the earth creates the oil. And so they're finally starting to say that now. I did hear somebody else repeat that. And it's the same thing with these ice shelves. Mm-hmm. It replenishes itself and it builds that barrier up and it keeps whatever is supposed to keep in. And then the air, it all recycles itself. We breathe out carbon dioxide. The plants take it in and they make oxygen. How could this be an accident? How could this be a big bang? This is purposefully done.
So I've actually got something I do want to repeat what my pastor said. It was pretty funny. He challenged his class of, I think it was 8th graders. He basically said, all right. So for those that believe in the Big Bang, he goes, I want you to go and take this puzzle here, this 1,000 piece puzzle. I want you to throw it up in the air, do as many times as you want, and make it all fit together. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'll even pay you $10 if just you can get 2 of those puzzle pieces just to fit. Everything needs to be unconnected when it's in there. Throw it up and then connect them. He goes, but whoever gets to put the puzzle together first wins. And he goes, I'm going to go and be on the side of intelligent design, so creationism and all that. And he goes, I get to just put it together though. He goes, because that would be intelligent design. He goes, that's the big difference here. He goes, how many of you want to go and take that bet? Nobody in the class wanted to. They know they couldn't do it. It's impossible. Because look at look at the DNA sequence. There was something I was watching. This other lady made such a good point on this on TikTok. She talked about our DNA, and if you were to go and break it down, I don't remember how she did it exactly, but I believe it was something along with gematria or something like this. But essentially, she's trying to make the point that our DNA even spells out YHWH, God's signature. That's our DNA. People were trying to say that's not possible. Why does our DNA spell it out? It blew my mind when I saw that too. But once again, my pastor, what he had said, that was hilarious. I had to mention that at that point. So
yeah, that's probably the better analogy than the one that I've heard forever growing up. And that's about taking a watch and tearing it apart, putting it in a baggie and shaking it. And you could shake it forever and it will never become a watch again. And that's what you're expecting the Big Bang to be. But, except for you have these particles and, that wasn't there, that all of a sudden now that's, caused with all this, and into a fine point. All this matter, which should have completely destroyed itself, which now becomes everything. And it's insanity.
100%.
So, yeah, it's like if anybody's watching, I've done 2 interviews with David Weiss. They were just, it was only an hour long for each one. I think maybe one was a little bit longer. And I'm so grateful he actually let me interview him twice, because normally he just doesn't have time to do that. But if you want to watch and see what David Weiss has, what he's put together and the experiments that he's done to prove flat Earth, just go to my channel, Catherine Michelle Investigates David Crowley, and then look up those 2 videos with David Weiss and flat Earth. And it's phenomenal. And once I opened my eyes to the truth and I let go of laughing at the lies and holding on to the lies, man, my life has been different. I see everything in a whole different way now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, too, and putting up a post and stuff is just like, if the enemy can keep you laughing, then you're guaranteed to never learn anything. Because as long as we're focused on laughing or mocking or sneering or or whatever, it's we're not going to look into it. We're not going to take the time because, well, that's just ridiculous, or that's not how I see it. So, or, I mean, there's just kind of like fill in the blank. And so then you don't look it up and you don't research and you don't learn. And I think for me, like at first it was just like, wait, what? We're not on a ball. Like, okay.
I still remember your face when I told you that.
Like, yeah, okay. Like, okay, and it's like a shock. But at the same time, if you even just take a millisecond to go in and research, it doesn't make any sense. And here's a very, very interesting thing is that they will actually, and Disney does this too, but people think it says one thing, but it doesn't. So even in like the, their nice little ball pictures in the clouds, they actually have what looks like the word sex, but it's not. And same with Disney in The Lion King, when Simba, when he's all grown up and he falls in the grass and then it's like the whoosh of the leaves and then it spells out sex. It's actually, that's not what it is. What that is those are the Greek letters that, because originally 666 was not original. Well, actually it was all originally Hebrew in the first place. But aside from that, they didn't have like 666, but the Greek letters that look like an S, look like an E, look like an X in English, those do equate to 666. So they are very, and then you think about it, they tell you, oh yeah, it spins at 66,600 miles per hour or whatever. It's rotating at this or whatever. And you're just like, so they're literally telling you the same thing in different forms. But when you don't understand what the Greek lettering was, and of course these people, they love Latin and they love Greek, right? Everything Roman, right? Which the Romans got from the Greeks got from the Egyptians got from Babylon. And so, but when people don't understand that, they're just thinking, oh, they're just making a mockery. Like it just says sex in the clouds and ha ha ha, that's funny. No, they're literally telling you this is equating to that number.
Yeah, it's the mark of the enemy instead of the mark of the creator.
Right. So it's very interesting when you go back. But again, if people are so inundated and drowning in their everyday lives, they're not going to look this stuff up. And, and it's funny because, one of my friends, she was like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you have time? Because I homeschool my son. And, we have animals and then of course my now 1-year-old and I have an 18-year-old daughter. And so it's crazy town here all the time. And she's like, I don't know, how do you do it? How do you do videos and do the research and stuff? And I'm like, okay, if I'm cooking or cleaning and I have something like, I actually get the energy to make a meal, then I'll put on something that sounds interesting and I'll just go from there. And I actually look for the longest videos that I can find and just listen as I'm cooking or as I'm like cleaning or as I'm doing whatever. That is where like 99% of my research comes from. And as far as my videos go, I just don't show my face. I have my little thingy, like here, and then I'm a hot mess behind the camera, but you'd never know that because I just don't show my face. I just show the thing and I pop on with my baby and my son in the living room right in front of me. And, you hear them playing in the background and I just pop out a video, And so it's like, It's not organized at all. It's just
Well, and not only that, I mean, you don't spend your time, doing what a lot of people do, wasting their time with games or with,
no.
other things. But Sophia, again, you're so quiet. What is your take on the flat Earth?
I'm still learning about it. I'm a lot more open to it than I was a year ago, honestly. And, it's weird because I didn't see things as I normally would see them, like photos of the architecture, photos of, for instance, like the Devil's Tower or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that now and you're like, wait a minute, that's
Tree
not,
stump.
yeah. And there's more of them. It's not just that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other things. And when you look at the sequoias and the redwoods, and you're thinking, okay, well, yeah, I can see how this could happen. And it's like, why are we trying to hide the truth? Why can't we know about this? Why is this supposed to be such a huge conspiracy?
Enemy doesn't want us to hear about it.
Well, yeah, because if you have people all of a sudden knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a creator up there, someone who we now owe everything to, where is our loyalty? Our loyalty and all of our time and our energy is not going to be spent making these people rich so they can live high off the hog. It's going to be to please the being that made us what we are. And
Right.
they don't want that. Not at
And
all.
that's very interesting too that you mentioned that, because like I was just thinking, I don't know, a couple of days ago, I was just thinking, like, it's very interesting because if like it says in scripture, like, so Yeshua says, you can't please our Heavenly Father, or you can't serve our Heavenly Father and mammon, so money, right? So, and I was just thinking, everything in this world boils down to money.
Mm-hmm.
And the enemy, and I'm just like, I haven't figured out what is it about money that's just like so great. Like, I mean, Michael Jackson even did this song, like, where he talks about people will lie for money, they'll kill for money, they will steal for money, they will do all of these things for money. People literally sell their souls. Like, all of our entertainment people literally sell their souls for money. People do the most horrific things in the name of money. So I don't know what it is, but it makes such sense, because when you realize, I mean, you even have churches running off of money, stealing money, using people for money. Oh, you're gonna get healed if you give us money. Like, what? I don't know what it is about it, but it is a thing, right? And so if people were to realize, like, that they truly mattered, that they were more than the things that they bought, that this world had so much more to offer than money, they would stop buying things. I think the entire economy would probably just completely crash, and all these people would lose money, because what is there when you realize, like, I don't know if anyone else is like this. I'm sure, Mom, you're probably like this too, but like, when you get depressed, what do? Like, I know I am online, like window shopping at the very least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's a lot to be depressed about. So you're just like, and so I think, like, if we were to realize how cool everything really is and how special we really are, we'd stop spending so much money, because we would realize that we're worth more than the things in our house, or we're worth more than how much is in our bank account, or, whatever. And I think for whatever reason, it boils down to money. So if they hide this from us, like, I mean, it's same with the whole like global warming bull nonsense, right? It boils down to money. They're making money off of this. And it's just really interesting to me.
Well, and that's just it. If you don't have money, you don't know what it is that's available to you. But once you have it and once you get a taste of that, it's really hard not to want more. But again, yes, it's all a caste system.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the creator we're all created under an umbrella of humanity. We're all the same. But humans, we have to make ourselves feel better. We put ourselves on different pedestals. And again, that's ego, that's sin, that's everything. But we're kind of getting off topic. I want to stick to the topic of the flat earth and how that really proves where we are in the scheme of things. When we realize that the complexity and the beauty of the way things truly are around us, and you compare that with the fakery of what is given to us by NASA can't compete. It just can't. The real beauty is amazing.
100%.
Yeah, and you know, and I think too, like they shove us into these cities, right? You know, and they have to like cram us all together because it's kind of like, but then you see postcards, right? Like of these infinite, you know, or even if you're just driving across country, you're like, oh my word, where is the next gas? Where's the next anything? Because all I see is like dirt, you know, and road signs, and you're just like, oh my word. And then we're being told, oh, but by the way, we're running out of space. There's too many people. I'm like, I'm sorry, I haven't seen a person for the last like 600 miles, you know.
Right.
You're just like, where, and this is just, you know, driving across country, let alone you look at the Amazon, you know, rainforest, and you know, you look at all
and they've been saying forever. I mean, it used to be back when I was in high school, if you took every person in the world, it would fit within the panhandle of Florida. And I think now if you take everyone in the world, we might almost fill up Florida now, or maybe half. But
So I heard it was Texas.
Everything else empty. Huh?
I heard it was Texas. That's the comparison I've been hearing for some time now.
Yeah, and I grew up here in Florida, but that's just let's say even Texas. We'll give them more land, but when you realize that there's everything else outside of that, we're not running out of anything.
Right. I mean, that's 100% on that.
Yeah, but then they can't make money, right? Because you're not scared, you're not freaking out, you're not buying things, you're not, you know, doing all this stuff. I mean, it's so crazy to me.
Yeah, and when I was in high school, since I'm older than all of you guys by a lot, you know, I remember being told when I was like in 7th or 8th and 9th grade that we were headed for the next ice age. It's going to be an ice age before 1980, and then it was going to be an ice age before 2020. And then all of a sudden it's like we have global warming. I mean, it's a joke. It's to keep everybody, like you were saying, preoccupied. And if you're preoccupied with that, you're not going to trust your eyes. You're not going to look at the stars. You're not going to look at the horizon. I remember I was watching, and I know I'm all over the place, but I have to say this before I forget. But I remember watching this Mount Everest video. I love to watch these people who do their videos when they climb Mount Everest. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's a pretty famous climber. He's all the way to the top. And he says, he goes, I look out here and it's flat, but I know it's curved.
Right.
And I'm like, I stop it and I rewind. And it's exactly what he says. It's so flat up here, but yet I know it's curved. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at it this way. This is how I like to see it. Look what they're doing with our education system. You know, I can tell you just for Oregon, for instance, reading, writing, math, not required to graduate right now. Yeah.
I call it the indoctrination station.
That's 100% what it is.
What? It's no longer needed to graduate.
Yeah, in Oregon, it's not at all. You can graduate with none of that. It's ridiculous.
Well, they don't need you smart. They just need you smart enough. They don't need you intelligent.
See, I like to refer to that. What was that one movie John Carpenter did? What was it? It was one about the aliens. And the guy wears the sunglasses, and all of a sudden he's got all this different messaging.
They Live?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
That's such a great movie.
It is because it's so true. Because I mean, really, what are the glasses? He's literally lifting the veil is all he's doing. He's just seeing right through it. He's like, oh, I see your guys' BS now. But I mean, it's the whole thing that when it comes down to it, end of the day, they want you to believe this. I mean, you brought up a good point earlier. I just want to just touch on this just briefly, about why they put themselves on pedestals like this. According to the Bible, what are we supposed to be at? We're top of the food chain. We're all supposed to just be mankind. We're the ones that we're right up at the top. We put ourselves on pedestals. That way we are kind of, we create that system. Well, I'm better than you then, you know, and it does this. But the thing is all these people, because we're supposed to be below them, we end up forgetting to go and, you know, worship. We forget to go and praise the Lord and all this. We forget all these things like that. So we spend all of our time working and all this, and all of our attention goes to money so we can survive, because that's what we think we need to survive. But really, it's not what we need to survive. We need the Lord. We need to go and, honestly, I tell people just go homestead. It's a smarter move. You don't need the government at that point. You know, you can do everything on your own. But all these people that are up at the top, what do they get to do now? For instance, look at Ye. You know, what did he do? He started his church and all this. You know, he's Jesus or whatever. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. But what does he get to do all day? He can go and literally spend all of his time worshiping the Lord, while everybody else is breaking their backs to go and, you know, make him money. So it's like all these like rich people like that are doing this. They get to go and basically share in the glories what they think, but God sees what they're doing, and he's like, "No, forget you guys. This is going to happen when they get up there." But yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know, I really think that, you know, hiding the fact of where we live is really what keeps the human condition as it is today. Because instead of being focused outward toward whatever it was that made us who we are, we stay focused inward, and then the wants and the desires of the flesh. Right. You know, and it's all basic psychology. But, you know, again, it's like when we look at these older buildings, like in Tartaria, and we see the buildings that have been buried beneath 20 feet of mud, you know, and buildings being built on top of these same buildings. And then we see these fake moon landings. You would think that that would be enough for us to go as humans, we can't trust a thing our government says. But instead, we have the cognitive resistance is so strong that the minute we hear the earth is flat, we laugh, we make fun, we joke, we belittle, and we tear down, instead of opening our ears and saying, hey, maybe I don't know something.
Right. And then there's also the whole thing. I mean, why did everybody else in the world think the world was flat? You know, look at all these what are they called? Cartographers, I think is what it's called. It's map makers. You know, look what they always shown. The world is flat. You know, and if you look at all these drawings and maps, look at the Piri Reis, for instance. You know, that's a really big one. When it comes to flat Earth, this is a huge thing. You know, we got to pay attention to this. He documented Antarctica before anybody else. But he also showed Antarctica in a different light than everybody else did. But it's the whole thing that, I mean, the one thing I think they were incorrect about, and I think it was almost kind of backwards. It's like, if you think if we're looking, there's a boundary out there, then, obviously they don't want us going out and proving this, you know? Well,
it's in the Britannica, the Encyclopedia Britannica in the 1953 version, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it was the early 100%. Version of the, the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it says that a firmament was found in Antarctica at 13,000 feet.
Right.
But we're not allowed to go there. So it's like, but yet they hide that. Kids today will never know anything about that Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, I mean, it's just like, there's another thing, like, I mean, they're hiding right now. I mean, I know this goes completely off topic, so I do apologize. That's only touching on it. They've had so much information. Look at adrenochrome. That used to be in medical dictionaries. They would explain it. Now you look it up and it's like they try to cover it up. Why? Because they were caught, you know? They know people have been looking into this now, and they're like, wait a second, we're going to go and expose this. It's no different than, like, for instance, the firmament, you know. But the thing is, I think it's one of the biggest reasons why the entire world, I mean, you know, even our enemies, you know, you got China and Russia literally coming together, like, with us and saying, no militarization of Antarctica, but we also don't want just regular average Joes exploring it either. You got to, I mean, there's all sorts of things you have to do. I mean, look at all the people that have literally tried taking speedboats, taking big old ships and everything to go and actually see Antarctica, and they won't let them. The military literally comes by and stops them. Then you have Admiral Byrd's, what was it, Operation High Jump?
Yes.
I mean, look at that. I mean, why would Hitler want to go and I promise I'm not going to go and do what Ye did. I mean, that was jacked up, seriously jacked up.
Do we even know if it was him? Because he was all in like a mask and everything.
That's a good point. That's a very, very good point.
Who is Ye? Is that Kanye
West?
Yes, Kanye West.
Oh, he's such a joke.
He is. He's such a plant, and everybody's falling for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that. There's some people on Twitter that I even like really, really respect, and it's just like they're falling for it. I'm like, what are you doing? But the thing is why would Hitler, of all people, why would he? I mean, he was obviously in the cult and stuff. Why would he want to go and take part in some venture in Antarctica? Why would he be looking for things, for instance, like the Chintamani stone? I mean, why was he looking for all these things? These things we know, I mean, there's something there.
Yeah. And then in true form, what does the U.S. government do? It's like, oh, well, let's create some cruises to Antarctica so they can go to like one or two places, and people go, oh, yes, we can go there. And it's like, oh my gosh, stop being so stupid. And I remember, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I remember, again, back to grade school, we were taught a lot of different stuff back when I was in school compared to what you guys were. I'm telling you, when you went to grade school in the 60s, you didn't learn, you learned other stuff. And they taught that Christopher Columbus was the first one to circumnavigate the Antarctic. But what they tell you is that he spent like 3 or 4 years or something like that. And he went over 65,000 miles before he gave up. So he didn't really finish it. He gave up because he got tired after 65,000 miles. Now we know, according to the globe, that the Antarctic is not 65,000 miles.
Bingo. There's another guy on TikTok. I do want to mention him. He's this younger guy. He used math to literally tear Antarctica apart. That's all he did. And that's what I just love it when people, like, there's so many people right now, young people, just like, we're talking Gen Z.
Good.
Straight up tearing this apart. I love it. But it's funny because, I mean, you look at this guy's comments, they're like, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. He literally shows you, and he has like 5 videos where he does this, just showing people, no, you go off of what Christopher Columbus went here. You can go around Antarctica, and you're not going to make that.
Right.
You're literally going to go around this on this map here. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're looking at 65,000 miles, you're going up around near the boundary. You're going along the boundary. He got tired of it because he's going around the boundary.
Exactly. And we don't even know if he even actually made it around. That's why I'm saying we have no clue the size of what it is that we don't. The average Joe Blow, we don't know. I'm sure the governments know, but yeah, we have no clue.
Well, I mean, look at the cover-ups they do. I mean, they don't even want us knowing about Operation High Jump. They don't want us knowing about Operation Northwoods, things like this. I mean, it's just like
Fishbowl.
I wonder what exactly. They don't want us knowing about these things. And it's all because what happens. It keeps us stupid, keeps us focused on working for them when really they're supposed to be working for us.
Well, yeah, and it's really interesting too, like, how much, I mean, just too, like the flack I get for being a homeschooling mom. Like, my son was told, oh, look, you should go to regular school. And it's just like, first of all, he is already ahead of his class. He is already doing high school work in 3rd grade. I make sure to jump around as much as possible because he needs that. Obviously, yes, I do teach him 3rd grade stuff because it's not like, it's not like he's going to comprehend things. He can't even understand his grade level. But what I'm saying, though, is that we jump ahead. We do Petri dishes. We do microscopes. We do like all kinds of things. I teach him flat earth. I teach him So of course, in his school books, it's the globe and the heliocentric model. We go over, okay, why is that false? Here's where that doesn't make sense here, and so we're doing like critical thinking. We're doing all of these things.
Well, in STEM classes, teaching him engineering and everything too.
Yeah, like building projects, all of these things. And so I take it very, very seriously. Of course, we have our goof off days, right? Like, I mean, it's not like, ooh, this great homeschool mom, but it really hurts because, you're just like, I'm sorry, I went through the public school system and it does not turn you into a genius, or anything like that. And it's what can you remember long enough to take a test? Oh, well, now you're smart, and I don't want my son to be operating that way. He's smarter than that. And I want better for him than that. And, and it's funny too, like talking about the pedestal thing is, okay, this whole world is literally run by demons, right? And we're looking, and I think the reason that people put themselves on pedestals is because you're looking at these higher beings, okay? Something that, one, you don't want to be, right? But they put themselves in these higher positions. Oh, they're in these great political offices. There's these celebrities, they're this, they're that. And so now I feel like we're constantly trying to fight each other to be better than each other, to get to a pedestal that these beings are on that you don't really want to be a part of, but they make it look so good, like, oh, you have all this money, you have all this fame, you have all of, this big house and this, that, and the other thing. So now we're all just like fighting each other to get to like, on the demon's level. And you're just like, why would you want to do that? But people don't think about it that way. They just think, oh, well, that's success. If I'm like just dirty rich, then I'm successful, instead of, hey, I'm loved by the creator. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, we need to start, like I would love to have a homestead. That would be, I want a mini cow. Dang it. I want a mini cow. It's like, I want a mini cow.
I want one of those Scottish Highland cows too. I just want to play with its head fur and everything.
Seriously. You know what? I'm getting me a mini cow someday. That's it.
Stay away from the mini horses. Those things are mean. They're so mean.
Yeah, the cows seem chill. Like, I'm like, we could be friends. Like, we could just go out there and just like, maybe I'll be friends with a mini cow. But like, I would love to have a homestead. Like, that would be so cool. But so don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, I mean, you need to like live if you're in the city and duh. But I think it's just, it gets to a dangerous point when that becomes the obsession. Like, I'm not anything if I don't have whatever.
I've never even really thought like that. I don't care if I keep up with the Joneses. I don't care if I don't fit in. Catherine knows this more than anybody. I just don't care. It's like we're in the group for the David Crowley group and stuff. And it's like, I'm there to retrieve records, to research and everything. And if people don't like me, I just don't care anymore. It used to bug me, but things like that. And it's like, if we have money, I spend it on the family and I spend it on things that they need. It's not like, oh, I need to go and get my hair done, my nails done. I need to go get all the best clothes and stuff like that. That's not us at all. It's not what we're trying to do. It's like, we're just trying to make sure that others have what they need and stuff. And every now and then I like to get something that's nice for the house, but that's about it.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I think that's just normal. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's normal, but I see so many people that just strive for, you know what I mean? Like, they will neglect anything and everything as long as they're making money. And I'm just like, it's not that serious, like.
Yeah. What was really sad is, how like on Facebook, they have those Facebook reels and stuff, and they show you I guess it's like a couple stories down, and they have all those Facebook reels. I watch them a lot. And there's this one lady who goes to Target like several times a week, and she drops between 300 and 600 a week. Yeah. And she shows receipts and stuff like that. And it's just stuff. And she's in debt because she goes to Target to make these reels. And it's like, well, it was always my assumption that they get paid, they get sponsorship, they get money from people watching and following and stuff like that. I mean, isn't that how it works?
I thought so. I thought if they had a certain amount of people watching or whatever, then they got sponsored, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. But when you're doing that every week, yeah, I mean, she works and she goes to Target and does these things, and all her money just goes into that. And I'm just like, how is that making you happy? I mean, we do Shipt. My daughter and I, we work Shipt on when we have spare time and just to earn some extra cash. And especially because it's the holidays. And we go to Target and HEB like so many times during the day to do this stuff. And it's like I look at stuff there and it's like, oh, that's cute. But do we need it? Do we have the space for it? Do I really want to spend my hard-earned money on that? And here she is just filling up a cart just to fill whatever is empty inside of her. And it's sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, because you can't buy enough.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I mean, you can only use so many dish pots. There's this meme that's going around on Facebook, and it's like, I'm sorry I ignored your 20 calls, but I was busy watching a video on people putting stuff into clear containers on YouTube or TikTok or whatever it is that you're watching. And it's like, okay, I'm a little guilty of that because I do watch that stuff, but it's kind of fascinating, but I don't want somebody to go into debt just to,
right.
Anyway, it's spending money on stuff that you're not going to get any satisfaction from.
Right.
My cat is very upset right now, so if you hear her in the background, I shut her away because she was trying to start a fight with another one. So,
well, I was thinking about wrapping this up. It's been an hour and 37 minutes, so we'll go around and you guys just give your final thoughts on Tartaria, mud floods, flat Earth. Take your pick. William, did you want to start us off?
Sure. Honestly, I mean, we were just being lied to, end of the day, and people it's just time for everybody to wake up. Obviously we're not on this spinning ball because there's a lot of reasons as to why that doesn't work out, or why the moon doesn't really work out, and why this heliocentric model doesn't work out at all, or why they're lying to us about everything else. Why do we have to go and cover up free energy? Kind of makes sense when you get a government that wants to control everything. And mud floods, well, I mean, everywhere is talked about the flood, so why couldn't there have been some mud flooding over some areas and just covering things up? I don't see any reason why it couldn't be. So,
okay, Lindsay, you want to give your final thoughts?
I think I don't know. I guess I just have like the oddball way of thinking, I guess. And I completely see all of it as spiritual warfare. And I just think that the scripture verse that says that we battle not against flesh and blood, but like principalities, the lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Like, for real.
Can you say the name of the person? And hello there, Tragic.
Tragic
Tragic
F-E.
letter.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. That is so true.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I just have like a really oddball way of thinking about it all, but because I just see everything on such a spiritual level. And I think that's one of the most downplayed scripture verses, period. Just because it does play into so much, and it would make sense that, oh, you're so nice. Deal with mean people a lot, so that's nice that someone's nice.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Hopefully you are gifted too. That is nice. But anyway, but yeah, like, I mean, I feel like if it wasn't so important, like if this did not have to do with something to battle for our souls, in the end, I don't see why they would lie about it, and I think just so many people are quick to, well, that's not a salvation issue. And I think it's so important to not view things like that, because the enemy is keeping us distracted. The enemy is lying to us. And for what? It has to be for more than just money. It has to be for something really important. And what's more important than money, especially to the creator? And that's us, So we're way more valued than what the enemy wants us to believe. And I think there's just a whole lot of avenues to get us to believe that we're not very valued.
I agree. And okay, Sophia, you seem to be one of the newbies. What are your final thoughts?
I truly believe that there was a highly technical civilization before our written history, because what is written now is not our real history. Just looking at the architecture, just looking at all the things that they described, and I mean, they had lights on. These were not lanterns. It was like the whole building was lit. And then you look at the photographs, and there's no horses, no carriages, no people in these photographs. And it's like, okay, but this is supposed to be a city. Where is everybody? They're not in the buildings. They're not on the streets. So there's something that we have not been told. And I think once we find out what that was and what that civilization was and what they're hiding from us, could you imagine what our lives would be like if we had that type of technology again? It would just, wow. I'm sorry. I mean, they're talking about incubators at the world fairs for babies, premature babies. And the type of incubators that they had were just mind-blowing. Things that you just don't hear about until like the 60s or the 70s and the 80s, and the technology is there again. And anyway, I'm going to start getting off topic, but it's just fascinating. And then you look at these buildings and the architecture, and why can't we recreate it?
Because we weren't the ones to do it.
Exactly. And it's like, there had to be. I'm sorry, she's so obnoxious right now.
My dog can't figure it out.
Well, and it's true, because people who grow up with the scriptures, for some reason, a lot of them are under the ideation that humanity was stupid. But they were so much more advanced than anything we could ever imagine. They came directly from the hands of the Creator. That's not some stupid Neanderthal, scratching their butt in a cave. These were highly intelligent people. And yet, like you said, it seems like all of that history is not only just being buried literally by mud, but they're erasing it completely to feed the narrative.
Real quick,
we're on a
reminded me.
wall.
Yeah, which reminded me real quick about the added years. We forgot to add that real quick. And just like the 1,000 years that was added. And I've just been thinking for a while that like, what if like life, whatever, like, you know, because Sophia, you were talking about how like the majority of this happened in like the 1800s, right? And it's kind of like, what if it's really not even that old? Like, I mean, you think about it. How long did people really live? Not that long. So if I were to tell my children that, you know, I've been, you know, they didn't know any different, and I never told them my age, but I told my children, I'm 1,000 years old. I had you when I was 800, you know, or something like that, right? Like, what would they would just believe me, right? And especially if that's all I ever told them. And I stuck with it the whole time. And I was like, yep, I'm this old. They'd be like, wow, you know, and say every parent did that. So, you know, we were all just like, oh yeah, we're 1,000 years old. And we had, you know, we could be told that history is, I mean, of course they come up with the millions of years, but we know that's not true, right? Or, well, we don't know how old things were before it all came together in creation, that sort of thing. But like, they could tell us anything. What if it's really not that old? What if we're not that far from the fallen? Like, I mean, I'm just like, if they're just adding 1,000 years out of nowhere and they're just like bloop, because they even have proof of that. There was this one thing, and it was in the 1800s, and I think it was like, I don't know, 1860 or something like that, right? Well, before that, it just said 860. And then later on, they put a 1 in there. They carved the 1 into the rock. And so you're just like, when there was photographic proof that it was not 1,800 whatever, it was actually 800 whatever. And so you're just like, what if we're really not that far? You know? I don't know. I could be totally wrong. I'm just like saying, like, that's just an interesting thought.
Yeah. Well, and then, yeah, to wrap things up, you know, I agree. And I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for being here. I thought it was a really good, we have, Tragic has written something else. Oh my goodness, written something else. C14 is in everything. C14 half-life equals 5,730 years. Certainly raises questions concerning the added 1,000 years, if you believe scientism. Very true. Very, very true. And in my humble opinion,
yeah, I'm not into science at all. Like I'm not.
But I had forgotten about this. This is true. C14 is in everything. I had forgotten all about that. It's an excellent point. But you know, I want to thank you guys so much. Thank you, William, Sophia, and Lindsay, and thank you, Tragic, for being here with us and for your comments. They're very much appreciated. But you know, we have to remember that lies are told to us for a reason, and it's never for our betterment. And when we see something with our eyes, believe that first. Even though your eyes can still deceive you, you can see something that's really not there. But if you see something and you know that what you're being told is the exact opposite, stick with what you're seeing. And, you know, we don't live on a spinning ball. We're not flying through space. You know, I don't know if this is an infinite plane, or are we the only small creation? We don't know. We can't know. We won't know until it's all over, until it's all said and done. But what is known is that there is a creator, and that we are living between a water above and the water below. So thank you guys. Have a
Can I say
time.
something?
Yes. Oh, go ahead, please.
There is a channel called Red Pill Truth. Okay, so Red Pill, one word, and Truth. And he was just premiering Antarctica and Beyond. So if anybody wants to go watch that, he premiered it earlier tonight. And he's been showing a lot of different video compilations from TikTok and stuff like that, exactly what we've been discussing tonight. So just wanted to share that with you guys.
I'm going to see if I can find it. Red Pill Truth.
Mm-hmm.
See if I can find is it
Red Pill is one word.
Okay, and he's holding a red pill, correct?
No, it's kind of a flag. Wait, Yeah, he is holding a red.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have my glasses.
I'm gonna post that link in here in the description. So
okay. Yeah, because he has like the hidden history, the movie 2022 Giants prepared for the merge, hidden history again, Pangea Drift. That was a good one, by the way. Just really great video compilations. And so if anybody wants something to listen to, and they're pretty long, so you can go to them.
Thank you for that suggestion. That's good. And so again, thank you everybody for being here. We made it 1 hour and 50 minutes, man, almost 2 hours. So, and Lindsay, you were afraid that you would just, not have anything to do or say or even add.
I was terrified. Oh my Lord. I freaked out all day long.
Nothing to be afraid of. Look, you did a fantastic job. So
yeah, because I was just like, this is terrifying. Because I was like, you can't edit live. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I think usually when Sophia has a suggestion, it's a good one.
And so, I like long
thank
videos.
you.
That gives me something to listen to while I'm like, doing whatever. And it kind of actually helps motivate me to actually cook a decent meal for my family. So thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I'm always looking for stuff to listen to while I'm cooking.
Oh, my daughter, she's ridiculous. She's like you, Sophia. She cooks all these homemade meals. It's like, stop it. This girl. So, but thank you, William, Sophia, and Lindsay. And thank you, Tragic, for being here. And I hope you guys all have a great night.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you.
Thank you. Good night.
Nice meeting you too.
Bye.